Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome back to the Crested Gaming Lounge. In today's video, I will give you my first impressions of an MMO I used to play years back called Allods Online. This will be the first video in a series where I revisit some of the MMOs I used to play in the past and sort of give you my first impressions of all of them, and perhaps even if they seem worth your time. We're going to speak about races first. There are 8 races in total in this game, and they have 2 opposing factions. We have the faction called the League and the Legion. On the League, we have 3 races in total. They are the Cananes. They have such a difficult names, okay? They are sort of the human race of this faction. They have access to all the 11 classes that exist in the game. They also have elves on this faction. They have the appearance that resembles that of an elf fairy mix, sort of, as they have wings that, it makes it possible for them to levitate. They have access to all the magical based classes, no physical based. And also, on this faction, we have a very, very unique race called the Gibberlings. They are small, fluffy creatures in a group of 3. And this group makes up your entire character. These 3 individuals are one character. I have decided to play one of this race on the League side, as they seem to me like the most unique race I think ever seen in an MMO. And this race have access to only 5 of the 11 classes, so they are kind of restricted. On the Legion side, we also have 3 races, and they are as follows. Sadadi. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. It's very weird. It's spelled Z-A-D something. They are a human race as well. They are very much Russian inspired, as the game itself was released by a Russian game developing team. They work just as the other human race on the opposing faction, as they have access to all the 11 classes. On this faction, we also have a orc race. They are very much similar to any other orc type race you might have seen in any other MMO, especially World of Warcraft, for example. They have access to 6 classes and seem to favor the more physical classes, and also the Warden, which is sort of like a shaman type class. And they also have a class called the Arisen, which is sort of like a undead Egyptian mummy type race. They are also very unique. Their whole story is that they have overcome death, and they have devoted themselves to learn as much as they can about magic, which also means they have access to all the magical classes, exactly like the elves have on the opposing faction. There are also 2 neutral races, however. One of them are called the Pryden. They are a cat-like humanoid race. There's also a race called the Iodio. Again, a very weird name to pronounce. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. This race I don't know too much about, since it seemed to be locked behind some kind of, end game wall or something. You have to. It seemed like you have to. Like character change into it late game. There was no option for you to actually make one. So we're coming into the character creation of this game. It is very simple compared to many other MMOs, especially some Asian MMOs I have played in the past. You get a few preset options such as hairstyle, facial features. However, there are no sliders and stuff like that you get in some other MMOs. There are only presets. In my opinion, this is both good and bad. It is good in the sense that you don't have to spend as much time to customize your character and can just jump into the action. But it could also be considered a bad thing for some people, because they can't spend the time to make the character look exactly like they want it. I will also touch upon the start leveling areas, because that is something that I have noticed in many games are very repetitive, and it seems to be the same thing in this game. There are start areas, but they're very straightforward. There is one start area for each faction. There's nothing specific for race or anything. There's just one for each faction. And quests. We must, of course, talk about quests, because that is basically what you do in your journey in an MMO to get to end content. So the quests themselves are very much like any other MMO you have played. If you've played any MMO, these quests are going to be very simple. You go to a quest giver, they give you a task, you go and complete this task, and rinse and repeat. You do that over and over. Now we will talk about something that will take up a little bit of a time, not much, but we're going to talk about class and roles. As I mentioned before, there are 11 total classes in Allods Online. They are the Warrior, Paladin, Scout, Demonologist, Engineer, Healer, Warden, Mage, Summoner, Psionist, something like that, Bard, and there's Bard, yes. These are the overall archetypes. There are, of course, for each race, for example, the Warden could be named as Druid or Shaman, but it's still the same core class. All the classes themselves seem to have 3 specializations. This is like, the very old school MMO. Each class have 3 specs you can choose between. You get to pick one of these specs when you reach level 10. And with many other MMOs of this era, like early 2000s, they have 3 different roles. They're damage dealers, tanks, and healers. So it's sort of this holy trinity of MMOs, as they like to call it. We must talk about gameplay, obviously, people. The gameplay is very simple, as it follows, the same model as many other MMOs, such as, for example, World of Warcraft. It's the typical tab target combat, where you simply use your abilities by clicking them. There is no action combat. You just target somebody, use your abilities, that's it. Graphics, very important for a game. For some games. The graphics are in no regards bad at all for a game that was released in 2010. It seems as they had maybe at least one graphical update since release, as I don't remember them being this good when I first played this game. And yes, guys, then as a conclusion, I am going to say it is a good game from what I got out of the first 10 levels. I'm not so sure if this is going to be worth your time, however, because it is very much like other MMOs. And from what I have sort of, I did some research about this game, and it seems like there are elements of it that seems to be very pay to win, and there's not much to keep you occupied for a very long time. So I'm probably going to say that try it out, because it is a good game, and you can, level to max level, see if you can find some people to play with. But I don't think this is something you are going to spend loads of time in. But people, that is all actually for this, my first impression of Allods Online. I will be releasing more of these of MMOs in the future, so keep a lookout for that. But until next time, people, I hope you have a great morning, day, or night, wherever you are. And until the next video, guys, I will see you. Bye-bye!